Laura Dern, you starred for 2 seasons on HBO's Enlightened about a woman seeking spiritual guidance who eventually becomes a whistleblower. You also created the show with Mike White. How did the two of you come together to develop this character of Amy Jellicoe?
Well, Mike, who I'm just such an enormous fan of and knew as a writer originally, he and I met after he wrote the script The Good Girl, and which I loved so much as a script. And we then sort of became friends again, if you will, on his first feature. He made a film that he also wrote called Year of the Dog and asked me to play a small part in it. And we had spent time and hung out and were friends and neighbors, actually, after that, and talked a lot about trying to do something together again. And I had a passion to explore a sort of an idea of a character, a seed of a character. And when I spoke to Mike about it and we started brainstorming together about that character, it seemed that the world started to unfold and unfold beautifully from his brain. And he has such a perfect paralleled universe of finding the humor and the great sadness in life and the poetry in it. And so from those places and those gifts in him, I think, come life.
The first season of the show focused more on Amy's personal journey to become a better person after her breakdown, and then season 2 seemed to sort of switch gears to her taking down the corrupt company. Did you always have the idea for Amy to go after Abaddon and eventually in the series?
So that was definitely a big part of our original goal, was her becoming a whistleblower focused on this conglomerate of sorts. Big food, big oil, big drug, whatever was anyone's fancy.
Unfortunately, HBO didn't renew the show for a third season, but the second season nevertheless did sort of bring the events to a conclusion. Even though you didn't get to continue the story on for another year, are you happy with the story you got a chance to tell over those 2 seasons?
I'm very happy. I mean, I'm elated to have been part of telling the story and playing Amy. And, it's definitely a bittersweet celebration because, I think we would have loved to have done one more season. And I think that was sort of already imagined, the third season. So that always makes it trickier. But at the same time, I couldn't be more thrilled that we got to explore it and ultimately make the show that we all really wanted to make.
Can you tell us anything about what you sort of had in mind for that third season? Any sort of story tidbits you can sort of give us to sort of imagine where these characters would have ended up in the future?
Well, I think, because, as I said, very much about use it and becoming a whistleblower. So the third season would be what happens when you take someone like Amy and you give her a soapbox. What does she do? But Drake was definitely Amy's sister and her sister's daughter coming home, and the dynamic between her mom and her 2 daughters, as well as the continual question of Amy's love life and her relationship to her ex-husband that Luke Wilson played.
Amy is passionate about making the world a better place, but she's not saintly. She has moments of being, sometimes self-involved or a little pushy. Do you think of her ultimately as more of a heroic character?
I do, but I'm unbelievably biased. So, I've kind of grown to love everybody I've played, even people who are just impossible. But I do find her heroic. I think using your voice, despite what other people think, she gets it right some of the time. And some of the time when she does, it is in her mind and probably likely for the common good, and that's a beautiful thing. And ultimately, as we see at the end of the season, she does affect change in people who we would have written off, we the audience, perhaps at the beginning of the season, like her ex-husband. Um, Even if she's inspiring by her own desire to change, which is so enormous, she inspires their desire to change as well. That's pretty darn beautiful.
One interesting aspect of the show is that your mother on the show is played by your actual mother, Diane Ladd, and it's not the first time you've worked together. How did the decision come about to cast her as your mother on the show?
Well, I love her, and I've had amazing experiences working with her. I really have to give the credit to Mike White that that was something that he really thought would be cool, and my mom became very passionate about the idea, and I did too. And we're super blessed to get to work together, and now several times. But in this case, the last time we did it, where we were both playing larger roles and had time to really explore working together, I was 20. So it's very different to work with your mom at 40 instead of 20. Um, you're different people. You have a lot more compassion, I think, perhaps. And I'm a mom now, so I have a lot more understanding, perhaps, for what she walked through, and it just makes a different work experience than ever before. She's such an amazing actor, and she's super funny, and I think everybody got quite a kick out of her too. So she made it a blast in that way.
You're a family full of Oscar nominees, you and your mother, and also your father, Bruce Dern, who's nominated for Coming Home, and he's actually getting more Oscar buzz this year for Alexander Payne's Nebraska. He won at the Cannes Film Festival for that. Have you gotten a chance to see that?
I have gotten a chance to see it, and he's unbelievable. I mean, it's amazing. The movie's amazing. I love it so much, and I'm so in love with his performance. So proud and excited for him, and I hope all that buzz and support continues because I think it's a real gift, that movie, and his performance is an incredible gift and filled with damage and incredible humor, and is so simple and pure and amazing.
I also wanted to ask you about directing a segment in the Lifetime movie Call Me Crazy. I had a chance to talk to Melissa Leo recently, whom you directed in the film, and she had nothing but praise for your work behind the camera. What inspired you to take part in it?
That's so sweet of her, and how lucky could I be, and to be able to do it with an actor like Melissa was amazing.
You've had experience with a number of unique and acclaimed directors like David Lynch, Steven Spielberg, Paul Thomas Anderson. Did you take anything from those your previous working experiences when it came time for you to direct?
Oh God, yes. I mean, I probably, the area that I took from the most would have been, frankly, selfishly, what I feel helps me as an actor and the other actors I've worked with. So to try to create an environment that feels comfortable to actors was super important. And um, how to be in the organic enough of the act to explore, and was mental to me. And those directors that I've worked with, all that you mentioned, I'd add Robert Altman to the list, Jonathan Demme and Alexander Payne, so many that that wanted to be free and to explore. That meant a lot to me, and had a lot to learn, and did learn a lot in the area of production, and um, you know, budget, working with a budget, it's not working. learning experience, and definitely the directors and the cinematographers I've worked with have really taught me a great deal as an actor and as I explore directing, for sure.
One of our chatters in our chat room, Owen Daly, wants to know what it's like to be in contention for an Emmy the same year David Lynch is in contention for an Emmy. He's a potential guest acting nominee for Louis this year.
I mean, so comforting, I can't begin to tell you. Like a baby blanket. I like to take David wherever I go, or he seems to like to take me wherever he goes. So I'm always happy to be in his company.
You've worked a lot with him in the past, Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, Inland Empire, and you won an Independent Spirit Award together for your collaborative work. What about his work, or perhaps him as a person, has kept you coming back to working with him again and again?
That he's a genius, that he is boundaryless, that he explores the art of cinema like very few do. That he's not tied to what the outcome has to be, but in fact the exploration of film as an inventive medium. And so I feel like he's a true educator in cinema. And I've always felt like the films I've done with him, people have caught up to sometimes a decade later or more. And that's pretty exciting. I have learned so much from him as an actor.
In our chat room, I Love Laura is interested in knowing, you've directed a few TV projects, but do you ever see yourself directing a feature film in the future?
Yes, I really want to, and I believe I will. There have been a couple of things I've loved a great deal, but the perfect thing, or the script being there and ready hasn't.
I just want to ask you one last question about you've been nominated for a few Emmys before in the past, and one of those was especially noteworthy. You were nominated for your guest role in what has become a watershed moment in TV history, Ellen's Coming Out episode. Looking back on that now in 2013 in a post-Will and Grace, post-Glee world that we're in now, what are your thoughts about taking part in that episode then?
Incredible. I mean, it's one I have both creatively to be part of that show and come together with a bunch of people to support Ellen, but really mostly and most notably to witness her bravery as an individual and as an actor. She took a real moment in her life and was so truthful and poignant through the character. And it really, with both things coming together, it made for, a classic moment in our culture. And to be witness to that and to be part of that was just an insane gift for me. And, to be driving in my car this morning with, my 8-year-old and my 11-year-old, and having them, know almost every line to the Macklemore song, Same Love, and to be talking very eloquently about the rights of a gay couple and gay marriage in general,
Well, I just want to thank you for your time and wish you the best of luck.
Yeah,
and thank
were
you
you
for
able
braving.
to get, you got my answer?
I got parts of your answers. Thank you so much for braving with these technical difficulties.
Oh, boy. Oh, no worries. Thank you for your patience as well. I hope you got everything you need, and if you didn't, call me up